The vast majority of construction projects are designed and planned with efficiency and productivity, but some opt for something a little different. In fact, there are some buildings that defy efficiency completely, and instead are built to be giant pieces of art. Not only are these artistic builds far more interesting to look at, but their strange and often bewildering architecture is also more fun to dissect. So let's dive into the 5 most artistic construction projects across the globe and find out why and how they were built the way they are. Number 5. The Whole House, Texas, USA. In 2005, on the corner of Montrose Boulevard and Willard Street in Houston, Texas, there were 2 homes sitting side by side that were set to be demolished. But before they were, local artists Dan Havel and Dean Ruck decided to build something spectacular between the 2 houses. Havel and Ruck called it the Inversion Project, and what they built certainly embodied the name. There was no real reason to build what is now known as the Whole House, with the exception of creating art that the neighborhood and the whole city of Houston could enjoy. So Havel and Ruck were able to have quite a lot of fun with their design and build. First, they peeled off the exteriors of the house. Then they used boards of old timber to create what looked like a vortex leading to nowhere. However, it did lead somewhere, to the backyard of the homes. The way they removed and rearranged the wooden slats, all with varying colors of natural wood and white or gray chipped paint, made the vortex look like a disaster of the space-time continuum. The project had been approved by the Art League of Houston before it began, and the organization assisted the sculptors in finding enough used timber to create their ingenious idea. Other than the old boards, the only other supplies Havel and Rick used were already there on the soon-to-be demolished homes. It was a completely sustainable and truly fun project, not only for the sculptors and art lovers of Houston, but for everyone who got to see it. Unfortunately, the Whole House only existed for a few months, which was always the plan, but it still saddened many when the houses, with the new artistic architecture, were demolished later in 2005. But a silver lining to the loss of the Whole House is that the Art League Houston building was built in its place, so local residents can still enjoy incredible art in this now historic location. The Whole House was an amazing feat in engineering and design, as well as being wildly fascinating to look at. Although it only lasted a few months, it is undoubtedly one of the most artistic construction projects of all time. Number 4. The Basket Building, Newark, Ohio, USA. In Newark, Ohio sits one of the most amazing buildings ever constructed. It is called the Basket Building, and for good reason. It looks exactly like a giant picnic basket, and this design was absolutely intentional, as it was built as the headquarters for Longaberger Company, an American manufacturer that made handcrafted wooden baskets. At the time of its conception, architects working in Longaberger had ideas for a building that somewhat resembled a basket, but according to sources, in the meeting, the company founder, Dave Longaberger, showed them their best-selling product and said, "Make it look exactly like that." Of course, designing a ginormous building that looked exactly like a maple wood basket was no easy feat. However, somehow the architects were able to deliver Dave his dream basket building. The basket is 7 stories high, 180,000 square feet, and has an incredible central atrium that looks up at the sky through an entirely glass ceiling. Above the ceiling, one can see the 2 absolutely colossal handles of the basket, which are made from steel, weigh 75 tons each, and contain internal heating, which ensures the glass ceiling isn't inundated with ice when it snows. There are also 2 25 by 7 feet gold leaf painted logos on each side of the basket that read Longaberger, just as their signature basket has. After the building was completed in 1997, it was not only considered an incredible piece of art, but was also a fully functioning office building for the company, and it remained as such for almost 20 years, until in 2016, Longaberger announced that due to falling profits, the headquarters would be permanently shut down. However, the basket building remained where it was, as Longaberger struggled to figure out what to do with such a unique build. One of the reasons why there are so few intricate and artistic buildings in the world is that it's incredibly difficult to sell them after they've served their purpose. For several years, no one in Newark or the surrounding areas knew what would become of their beloved basket building. However, they all agreed that it was an important local landmark. Jim Klein, former president of the Longaberger Company, said at the time, "The big basket is like the St. Louis Arch. It's a really important part of the southeastern Ohio history." Finally, after sitting empty for 2 years, developer Steve Kuhn bought the basket building for only $1.2 million, which was less than a third of the $7.5 million asking price. In 2019, Kuhn still hadn't announced what he planned to do with the amazing structure, but he did open its doors for a one-time only tour. At the time, more than 600 local Ohio residents lined up to finally go inside this mysterious building, unsure if they would ever be able to do so again. Then, just months later, Kuhn announced that he would be turning the space into a luxury hotel, complete with an indoor pool and impressive restaurant. But after the COVID-19 pandemic swept the globe, his company decided it was no longer financially viable and has since scrapped the idea. Now in 2024, the basket building is on the market again, and hopefully it will soon be reopened in some form or another for Ohio residents and architecture lovers to enjoy. Number 3. The Dancing House, Prague, Czech Republic. In the capital city of Prague in the Czech Republic sits one of the most awe-inspiring artistic builds ever to be created. The Dancing House, also known as Ginger and Fred, was designed in 1992 by Croatian-Czech artist Vlado Milanic in collaboration with fellow architect Frank Gehry, who is of Canadian-American descent. Interestingly, the history of this building is almost as exciting as the artwork itself. Where the Dancing House sits was once another apartment building. However, it was destroyed when the United States bombed Prague in 1945. For decades, the lot sat empty, except for the remaining rubble, and it was Vlado Milanic who had the idea to design and construct an amazing building in its place. Around 1986, Vlado told Václav Havel, the owner of the neighboring plot, his idea, but nothing came of it. Then, just a few years later, Václav Havel was elected president of what was then Czechoslovakia, and he remembered his friend Vlado's idea. Nationale Nederlanden, a Dutch insurance company, decided to bankroll the project and offered Vlado and Frank all the money they could need to design an amazing space that would make the citizens of Prague proud. And that's exactly what they did. Their idea was to create a yin and yang style building with two very different energies and looks to represent the transition of Czechoslovakia from communism to democracy. Frank Gehry originally thought to call it the Ginger and Fred Building, after famous American dancing partners Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, though he later said it was better as the Dancing House, since he was afraid to import American Hollywood kitsch to Prague. Construction of the two architects' amazing design went smoothly, and the entire building was completed in only 4 years, in 1996. While many praised the interesting deconstructivist or new Baroque design, others felt as though the architecture was too different from Prague's existing and historical buildings. However, while differing opinions will always exist, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that the Dancing House is one of the most artistic buildings ever made. Number 2. The Crooked House, Sopot, Poland. The Crooked House, or Krzywy Domek in Polish, is a wonderfully imaginative building in Sopot, Poland that truly does look crooked. It's a commercial building with a shopping center including stores, restaurants, beauticians, and several cafes that tourists and residents alike can enjoy every day. The idea for the Crooked House was proposed in 2001 by Szczetinska and Zaleski, two architects who wanted to design something truly special for Sopot. It has been said that the two designers got their inspiration from the fairy tale drawings of Jan Marcin Czansa and Per Dahlberg, and once looking at the illustrations and the building itself, the similarities are clear as day. The surreal design has sandstone-framed windows, stone decor, curved stained glass, a concave roof, blue and green enamel shingles, and completely warped walls that make it look like something out of a dream instead of a real construction project. Fortunately, even with the strange design, construction went smoothly, and only 3 years after the idea was conceptualized, the building was complete and ready for visitors. The Crooked Building is about 4,000 square meters and is now the most visited building in all of Sopot. Along with the many businesses, those who go to see the Crooked Building can also enjoy the Sopot Hollywood Walk of Fame, which shows every famous person who has visited the amazing building. Number 1. The Big Pineapple, Bathurst, South Africa. Last but certainly not least is the Big Pineapple in Bathurst, South Africa. At just under 56 feet and 3 stories tall, the Big Pineapple is the largest pineapple building in the world. And yes, there are several, but Bathurst's is something really special. Bathurst is a largely agricultural region that farms, you guessed it, pineapples. So in the 1980s, the community decided they wanted a giant building of their beloved fruit and set to work to make it happen. Luckily for Bathurst, there was already a pineapple building in Australia, so they essentially followed the existing construction plan but made it 2 feet taller so that theirs could be the tallest pineapple on the planet. The building is made of fiberglass, steel, and concrete, and while there are no windows along the outside of the building, there are panoramic views from the top floor that allow visitors to see all the way to South Africa's coast. Inside sits a museum explaining the area's rich pineapple farming history, as well as several stores that sell pineapple products for visitors to take home. And there are a lot of visitors. There's even a restaurant which serves pineapple, of course, as well as other delicious meals. All in all, the Big Pineapple is certainly the pride of Bathurst and the agricultural community there, but it's a fun, artistic build that anyone who visits South Africa can enjoy. Artistic buildings certainly add joy to our world. There's no doubt that these, as well as many other artistic construction projects around the world, bring whimsy and joy to all who get to see them. And while artistic construction construction will likely continue to be few and far between, as most architects focus on productivity. Those that do exist and will be built in the future will always feel like a breath of fresh air. Excited for more construction wonders? Click the video on your screen to unravel Philippines' $3.6 billion bridge. See you there.